Happy April Fool's Day and welcome to the show that is for now still called Archers of Horror. I am Ed Doherty, joined as always by my co-host Rusty Stark. Rusty, how are you doing?
I'm very excited. I'm feeling it in my bones today that this is going to be a great episode.
In his bones. Okay, now I feel it in my bones as well.
Because it's a good movie. That's my bold statement to start this episode.
Well, I think there's going to be a bit of a disagreement because I don't think I like it as much as you.
Compared to last episode of Leprechaun 4 in space, we could watch we could watch a pile of shit turn moldy, and that's better than that movie.
I mean, I walk down the street and I see tourists taking videos of things, and any of those would be better films than Leprechaun 4.
Oh, come on, Sporto. I came into your room last night. You were jumping around like your ass was on fire.
So, Rusty, before we get started, we've gotten a few suggestions about our new name. The reason we want to change our name is because when we started this, our ambition was to watch every horror release specifically from Arrow Video, and it's kind of we've widened our approach since then.
No. You're not sorry. There's been a mistake.
I did get 2 suggestions, Rusty, via listeners.
Nice.
And are you ready for this?
Sock it to me.
Listener Maddie Q texts, why not call it the Rusty and Ed Show? A little too simple.
A little
too simple. But the next one is actually good. I'm not sure if I should say people's last names or I'll just say like I just did. Larry S. writes, may I suggest a prayer for hair?
I love it, but I don't know what people would think of it.
We got him! Yeah, did we nail him?
Ha ha ha. April Fools. Very funny. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Somebody could have gotten very hurt out there.
Oh, at least we don't go in for this shoelaces untied crap.
While this show is still called Archers of Horror, rate and review the podcast on iTunes. Rusty, we said last episode that if we got to 77 ratings by this episode, I would shave my head live on Instagram.
It looks like you're keeping that hair.
But I have to say, well, what are we at now? 74?
I think so.
But we are recording this a little earlier than we normally do.
That's true.
So we'll give everyone till the release of this episode.
Are you praying for hair, or what are you hoping? What's the best case scenario for you?
You know, I might get cursed by the gods for saying this, but my hair has been looking good in the past day or so. This length is the ideal length for me.
You need like a Flowbee that has that setting for you. You just vacuum your hair every day and just keeps it at that perfect length.
I have a team of scientists. Who is the scientist from Mega Man?
Dr. Wily?
He has been, I thought he was the bad guy.
Oh. I don't know.
Wherever he is, I need a team of scientists.
I feel like my hair is at that same situation that if it grows a bit too long, it just starts to look thin. When I cut it shorter, everything looks okay.
You people at home heard that. Our stretch goal, if we get 81 ratings, Rusty will also shave his head live on Instagram. Speaking of that Instagram, Archers of Horror podcast, that is the best place to follow us for, some fun content.
One last thing I want to say about your hair, though. You posted on your personal Instagram a picture of where you were this past weekend at the Sundance Lab, or last week.
Yes.
And there's a group photo of you guys, and your hair looks very solid in that picture. I think even somebody commented that your hair was looking good.
Yes, we did get a comment from listener Sean S. in the Seattle area. But I think that was just the lighting. I perfectly positioned myself. When I arrived at Sundance's offices, I started consulting with gaffers, pulling in all kinds of crew, and I was like, okay, so this group photo, I'm going to try to get in the middle. Can you take out some of these lights?
Nikki, burn my bags, baby. I am home.
Before we get into the film, I did have one question to ask you, Rusty, and actually, it ties into a global campaign I'm going to launch.
What's that?
Wow, I can't believe that's how casual your answer is to me launching a global campaign. Do you know what a global campaign is? It's global. This is huge. Do you have any traditions for April Fool's Day?
Well, the tradition, Jen and I went on our first date on April Fool's Day, so I guess there's that tradition now.
Well, that's cool.
Why do you have something?
If you look at people, no, because, well, I do actually. I have my own tradition, which is going to become the world's tradition. But people on Twitter or on the message board I read, they love to complain about April Fool's Day. Second only to St. Patrick's Day in holidays that people like to complain about and be like, anyone who does anything for April Fool's Day, like anyone who pulls a prank is such an asshole, loser, blah, 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 blah. Which of course is true. Anyone that today, I mean, I would certainly do it, but anyone who's an adult who does like an annoying prank is of course
Right,
annoying.
but what if it's what if it's well thought out, like this movie, where you put like a lot of time and research into it, and you pull it off? That would be impressive as fuck with that.
Yeah. Me personally, I would pull any kind of prank, and I enjoy pranks, even if they're just annoying or trolling. You've played video games with me. You know that I like trolling. Here is my thing that I do on April Fool's Day. I always watch at least one classic comedy, and I try to make it a day about laughter. So I feel like instead of pranks, if April Fool's Day was to celebrate that most primal human thing to laugh and comedy and shit like that, we have a great holiday on our hands.
Isn't there already a British holiday for that? The Red Nose Day?
Well, we are in America, and that's no disrespect to our British listeners, which we have a surprising amount.
Well, guess what? I'm starting Pancake Tuesday. I'm taking that.
Okay, you can have Pancake Tuesday, but I'm sure that a National Pancake Day already exists.
We do have some British listeners. I know that, so they're going to be outraged right now.
They're going to say, that's fucking great, and you guys should take Boxing Day too. And I'll say, I still don't even know what Boxing Day is.
Tricks, pranks. Ask your friends. Is your dad around?
All right, so I want to ask you, though, about April Fool's Day, 1986. Your memories of this movie. When was the first time you heard of this movie or have seen it?
Huge divide between those two things. I first heard about this movie probably shortly after it came out on VHS. This VHS cover of the girl with the knife with like the braid that's a noose, right?
Yeah, the famous cover. Yep.
That is, one of the most I want to say indelible. I don't think I've ever said that word before. VHS covers of the 80s.
I remember that standing out in every video rental store. And it always kind of intrigued me to the point where I wanted to see it, but I was still a little scared. And my own personal memory is that I did have friends that seen it and were discussing it one time at lunch. And for some reason, they were talking about it very explicitly with that propeller scene in the beginning where Buck gets chopped up by the propeller. And it sounded so gruesome that it scared me, and I couldn't bring myself to seeing it.
I'm afraid, all right? You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
I'm shocked that I never saw this movie earlier because you probably don't know this, but I love to braid hair. I can actually, but I always talked about it with Maddie. Like, we'd be like, "Oh, I really want to learn how to braid hair." Always seemed very appealing, like a good kind of I don't know, meditative thing to do.
That's funny because my parents had a throw rug growing up that had those like tassel pieces at the end. I don't know what they're called, but like the fringe. And I used to do French braids with that. French braids with that. French braids.
Rusty was so impoverished that they had to pretend the carpet was French bread pizza. Just eat it.
Okay, so I spazzed out. Now we're even.
But I never saw this movie in the VHS days. I don't think I saw this until I was in my 20s. And I remember really, really liking it when I first saw it, not knowing what the twist of the movie was, which if you don't want to know, stop listening now. We've already got the stat. And this time when I watched it, I liked it, but didn't love it. I mean, I didn't dislike it. I was just I was a little board. It took me a lot to get through it.
I feel like, just backtracking for 1 second, I feel like you did a lot of self-discovery in your 20s. I feel like in your teens, you were just watching the George Brett Pine Tar incident over and over again.
I was. When I think about the years I lost watching that one George Brett baseball game.
Listen to our other previous episodes to find out what he's talking about.
But just for the people who, that was a famous baseball game where George Brett went crazy and got in like a fight with the umpires. And it was such a weird thing for
It cost him the game, though.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing for my family to have on video, and like my brothers would watch. But it's, I do watch like Stop a Douchebag on YouTube now, so I can see it.
I mean, my God, we're not going to be sheltered little college kids our whole lives. Wake up, smell the bacon, man.
Before we jump into the movie, I just want to ask you, April Fool's Day, do you have any memories of pranks you pulled or anything, or pranks that were pulled on you? Anything that stands out?
I can remember 2 off the top of my head. This was on April Fool's Day, but it was not noted until later. But I used to live with these 2 very artsy guys, but they were like, how do I describe this? Like one of them had gone to art school and was super pretentious, and the art they did was like, I don't know how to describe it, but like art pieces, collages, shit like that.
I went to art school. I know what you mean. I know who the characters are just talking about.
Yeah, they'd have like pretentious friends that they'd gone to school with. Like I remember one time, we used to enjoy watching the show The Real World, and one of their friends came over, and like we had never even met her before, and she like looked at us with disgust, and she's like, "I could tell neither of you have ever been to Europe." And I was like, "Oh," I was like, but I do watch a lot of highbrow stuff. I'm just watching The Real World right now. But so
that's embarrassing to say. Like, how do you live with yourself after saying something like that?
I completely agree. And so we began to like drift apart, and we'd have arguments where they would show me like films they made. They'd be like, "I've just made a new movie," and the movie would just be like shooting out a car window, but it'd be like in black and white for like an hour, and I'd be like, "Well, I can't watch this." They're like, "How dare you? This isn't my film." And I'm like, "But this is just shooting a camera out a car window. Like, I get that you can put that in a gallery or something, but since I know you, I find it to be less legitimate."
What's the really bad Andy Warhol film where is it the Empire State Building that he just shoots for like 30 hours?
Yeah, I think is it 30 hours or 24 hours or whatever. It's a lot of hours. It was that exact kind of thing, but it was the kind of thing that the stuff had all been done before, and which is fine. You can do that, but like, if you're going to be such a dick, then I'm going to not like it. Anyway, though, so things between us had kind of been getting worse and worse. And I hadn't noticed or hadn't really said anything, but they had taken a bit of packing material from like a box and nailed it to the wall as if it was like an art piece. And on April Fool's Day, and I just hadn't noticed. And then like 3 weeks later, we got in like an argument, and I was like, "And you think this is art?" And then they both started laughing because they were like, "We put that there to piss you off, and then you finally noticed it."
How are you that oblivious that you didn't say it?
No, I saw it, but I was like, "Oh, now this is what they think is art." That literally looks like they put a garbage bag and nailed it to the wall.
Is this the last time you ever spoke with either of them?
I wouldn't rule out them listening to the podcast. So to them, I say, please rate and review.
Not negatively, though. Please.
No, we can't withstand another negative. After we got hit by those 19 one-star reviews from a troll, if we get one more one-star review, we will be removed from the iTunes store. The iTunes store wrote us an email. They said, if you get one more one-star review, you'll be thrown into the crypt with Steve Jobs.
Oh my God. You gonna spend a weekend there?
What about you?
I do have an April Fool's Day memory. I'm going to give you the Sophia Petrillo intro, okay?
Okay.
Picture it. 4th grade, 1988. I had this crush on this Russian girl. She wasn't from Russia, but she was Russian. And I had a crush on her all year long. So April 1st rolls around. And this girl, she rejected every suitor that came her way. Some say she had a heart as cold as Siberia. Right?
Okay, I love it. As cold as Siberia. Yes. I was just watching the film Enemy at the Gates the other night. Horrible movie. Go on.
So, of course, my intrigue intensified. And I needed to know how that ice ran through her veins. But, she was really cute, too. And she was, like, very demeaning, which I liked. So I think for me, I mean, she was cute, but I think the allure was also how unattainable she was. At that age, every kid knows they could get the girl that has asthma. But to
wait, get the girl that has asthma? Why? Because you could catch her?
Interpret it any way you want. But
I don't even know that I was aware of asthma at that age, but
the
The Girl That Had Asthma. That's my kid's book. Go on.
I don't know if you were like me, but I was very timid with asking girls out. So I
Yes, and I still am.
so I really always needed to like devise a plan that was like this foolproof plan that I could handle the rejection
Mm-hmm.
and without suffering any humiliation. So I came up with a plan to ask her out on April Fool's Day. If she said no, I had my way out. So I asked her out, and do you have any idea what she said?
Well, I'm guessing she said no.
Yeah. Very I think it was like a ew, no. I think she added the ew in there before she could read my face.
I think I know where this is going.
Before she could read the heartbreak, I shouted out like April Fool's, like I would ever go out with you kind of thing, which was really like,
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, if she's out there listening, it looks like I was the fool that day.
Yeah, I guess so. And if she could please rate and review the podcast,
Please.
Nostrovia.
I thought the Cold War was over!
It's always cold in Siberia.
Cast and crew, what did you think of the ensemble in this film?
I felt like I did the first time I saw it. The actors are on a better level than a lot of these slashers. And also just technically, it's a little better, I think, than your average like Friday the 13th sequel or kind of like lower tier slasher.
I think it's a stellar cast, even though they're all in like a lot of B movies, but
Yeah, this is like the big chill. This is like the big chill for you.
it's my big chill. It's all actors from like my biggest 80s movies that I just adore. You know, if there's an analogy for you, do you remember the scene where E.T.'s in the closet with all the stuffed animals?
Yes.
That's how I want to be with this cast, just all around me.
I love that comparison. Very strange one.
You walk in and you open the closet door and you just see me like,
You can just take that thing and shove it right back in your pants, kiddo.
just leave me be. Give me some Reese's Pieces and let me be.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to give me a rundown of these people because I recognize Biff from Back to the Future, but I don't know that I recognize anyone else.
I love them all. You don't know Deborah Foreman, who plays Muffy/Buffy?
I never seen her in my life.
Valley Girl? You never seen Valley Girl?
No.
Oh. Waxwork? You never seen that? Real Genius. I know you've seen. I think we watched that together.
I've seen Real Genius. Waxwork, much to my shame. But anyone, I'm not sure if it's Vestron. There was like some video company that Waxwork, I swear to God, was the trailer on every video.
How did you find out from one of his preppy friends?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Two actors in this film that I love. Deborah Goodrich, who plays Nikki, and her partner in the film, Chaz, played by Clayton Rohner, both from Just One of the Guys. And interestingly enough, is that they were a couple in that film as well.
Really?
Yeah, so in both films, they had some on-screen romance.
Right, and I'm Cyndi Lauper. Could we please go back to the prom now?
Just One of the Guys was just mentioned to me on Friday. Maybe I'll revisit it.
We're going to be doing that film this summer, I bet. That might be my birthday pick.
I like what I'm hearing, even though I'm sure it's horrible.
No, that movie is still good. I did watch, and I had Jen watch with me, and she was disgusted. But one of the actresses in this film, Amy Steele, who plays Kit, was also in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah, I read that.
But also in a real abomination, Walk Like a Man with Howie Mandel. And I had to revisit that, and I put it on YouTube, and Jen watched about 30 minutes of it and was just so annoyed with me and saying, "How could you watch this?" It was just complete trash.
Back to who played Nikki. I found that character to be very attractive.
Oh yeah, extremely.
Loved her whole vibe. She was my girlfriend for the movie. She was my movie girlfriend.
There was girls that looked just like that growing up. Like I had friends' sisters that looked like that, and I had such a crush on every one of them. So you can imagine how I felt about her from Just One of the Guys in April Fool's Day.
Kiss the girl.
This guy's a collector.
But Clayton Rohner, who plays Chaz, I loved his character as well.
Chaz Vashinsky, you've got great legs.
He's in a movie. I think you would hate this movie, but If you saw it as a kid, you probably would like it. But Modern Girls,
Modern Girls.
that is that is another fantastic movie. He plays a dual characters in that one, just like Deborah Foreman does in this one. He plays rock star Bruno X and a nerd Clifford, and his English accent not the best.
So weird that you mentioned that because I was watching a YouTube video about different regional dialects in the UK yesterday.
What is this, show and tell? You're showing me yours and then I get to show you mine?
Back to the cast and crew of this film. Who else do you want to take us through?
One last person. There's a couple key ones, but the character Rob, played by Ken Oland, or Oland. I don't know how you say his name, but he's...
Now, was he the Republican character?
No, that was Harvey, played by Jay Baker.
Harvey? Mr. Junior Achievement. Oh, please. Yuck.
Ken Oland was the guy that didn't get into medical school because he lacked something, drive or ambition or one of those things. But he was in the first Leprechaun movie.
Wow. Okay. Crossover.
Which is apropos, yeah. And then he was in another movie I loved, Summer School, with Mark Harmon.
That is a movie I loved as well.
Oh, good. Finally, we connect on something.
Finally. Well, my brother's first girlfriend worked at the library, so we had a few VHSs that we just kept forever. So Summer School and Three Amigos, I also know those very well.
Did you have a big crush on the foreign girl in Summer School?
Yes.
Hold it. No, don't anybody move. But before this night is over, somebody in this room will pull his wang.
So April Fool's Day. Do you want to give us a plot overview, or how do you want to do this?
Yes. So Muffy?
Muffy, yes.
Does she start as Muffy or Buffy?
She starts as Muffy.
You know what I find amazing? Muffy's her real name. I mean, my name's Harvey, but they call me Hal, so I figured Muffy must stand for something. Muffin?
Muff child, muffo, the muffster, muffin stuff.
Muff dive.
So Muffy is a very rich girl, and I'm not sure where it takes place. I think it takes place in Maine, but it was shot in Canada. But she is set to inherit this kind of giant mansion on a lake, very scenic house. She invites all of her friends there, and one by one, just like in all the other slashers of the era, they start getting killed off.
But they become aware of it very quickly.
They become aware of it very quickly. They don't seem upset enough, but that's a small criticism.
I think they do. Remember how upset all of them were? They were bummed out about the ferryman that got chopped up by the propeller.
Am I nervous? Yes. Am I a little bit scared? Yes. But am I running around like a chicken with its head cut off?
Oh, nice image.
No.
They were, but then when people start dying, like I feel like they should have been freaking out harder. But that's...
I feel like two of the characters freaked out. I think the two main ones, Amy Steele and whatever his name is, I can't say his name, Ken Oland. I don't know how he says his name. But
he could have been huge. He should have changed his name to Stark.
Oh, a wise guy, huh?
But don't forget, they were on a private island that they had no escape from, and the constable told them he was coming, so they felt some relief there.
And I guess they didn't have phones, cell phones.
Yeah, so they're getting picked off one by one, and the characters Kid and Rob are the last two, and they piece it together that Muffy has a psychotic twin, Buffy, who's behind the carnage.
It's not Muffy, it's her twin sister Buffy. She's got a twin sister. Rob, don't you see? Rob!
And in this climactic showdown, Kid and Buffy, the truth is revealed what the motives of the weekend are, which is that it was a prank as part of what was it called? Not a mystery, a murder mystery.
Murder mystery.
A murder mystery.
I mean, I don't know if we're jumping right to the very end, but the justification is that Muffy has mentioned that she's in drama school, and she's going to apply it by hosting like murder mystery weekends for people, like high end.
Yeah,
murder mystery
not
weekends.
as detailed as what she did with her friends, but she also mentions though that as part of her inheritance from her mother, that she's getting the house, but she had to prove it to her father that she could float the bill. So to make money, she came up with this idea.
Old money never makes his family with friends.
This is true, for as long as I've known her.
Or to protect her family, I guess.
No, to keep her friends.
Jumping into it with the opening scene, part of the opening scene was when she's cleaning the basement up and preparing for this weekend, Muffy. She finds that old Jack in the Box, and it triggers a flashback, which is played over the opening credits. It's her birthday. It's in front of all her family and stuff. And then when she's cranking the thing of the Jack in the Box, it bursts out a monster and it scares her. Did that really happen? Or was that just like a false memory or something planted to the viewer so that we would think that she had this traumatic event on her birthday, on April Fool's Day?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I feel like that was for the viewer.
But the very, very end of the movie, the Jack in the Box comes back into play, and that gets her. That's the prank that's played on her. So I don't know.
I feel like the Jack in the Box, I feel like it was like her imagination, because it's even the shot is like from her POV, and it's like it looks like one of those like little monsters from like The Gate or something. What company's going to manufacture a Jack in the Box like that? Well, I think nowadays that could be a good memento.
But I think that memory plays to the narrative that her she had the twin sister Buffy, but in reality she had a twin brother. The
Yes.
Skip character played by Griffin O'Neill. So I don't think it really works. It would kind of,
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it was interjected just to throw off the viewer.
There's a crazy twin, all right, but his name isn't Buffy.
His name?
Skip?
He's your brother?
You bastard.
Did you like the ferry ride scene where the introduction to the characters?
Love water, love ferries. So I was there for that.
Is it like the equivalent of The Shire for you? Like you just want to spend the whole movie on the ferry?
I was just looking through my phone because I got like when it says new memory or whatever comes
Mhm.
up, and it was actually a memory of being on a ferry 4 years ago today, on a ferry. Can you believe it?
I don't know. You tried to gaslight me before, so let's see.
And no, that is not an April Fool's Day joke.
On this ferry ride in the movie, though, the character Chaz, played by Clayton Rohner, mentioned several times that a person's fly is open.
Guy, your fly's open and your hostess Twinkie is hanging out, huh?
In two cases, the people's flies were actually open. Was there anything more humiliating than being told that your fly was open in front of a group of people, especially girls?
Rusty, let me tell you something. I am the king of having my fly open. I was just in my Sundance lab. Yes, that Sundance. And I was just drinking so much coffee and so much water. I kept peeing so much. And so many times I'd come back to the table and then look down and be like, oh, well, my fly's open. Time to plot how I'll be getting these pants together.
Did you have pee stains too?
No pee stains. But I did once play softball and quite famously have a giant pee stain that I was like completely like my body language had to be giving away that I was like covering my mitt was always covering my crotch. And by the way, I was like fucking 25 years old. It was like the one time I was playing like the infield, so I was so visible.
I was wearing gray jeans, and I feel like jeans usually hides pee stains well.
Yeah, that's why I wear them.
Pee dribble, and for some reason it like I peed really quickly. I just wanted to finish because I wanted to get back to what I was doing, and I returned, and Jen was there, and I just had this huge pee stain on my gray jeans. And it's just like, well, I'll be changing jeans before she notices, even though I shouldn't really care.
Yeah.
Jen sees it, but
I can relate. If I ever had a company that made jeans, our motto would be 88% denim, 12% urine.
I thought you were going to say like a material that has some kind of new age plastic or something that could just, it's like Teflon. This piece slides right off.
ADD jeans, it'll seep in.
How much time do you think it takes for pee to dry up?
I don't know, because I've always got some going. Oh, come on.
By the time it dries up, you're peeing again.
Yeah.
You have a bladder of like a 90-year-old.
This is really getting a little too blue, but I'm like too casual about piss. I've got to a point where I just don't care about it.
Our fans love the blue.
They do.
Humor.
No, they do. But I, as you know, I pee in my bathtub at night. Because I
think
I'll wake up with like a boner but I have to pee, and then I just do it in the bathtub. but sometimes I forget to wash it, and then I'll step in for the shower, and I'm just like, oh, urine on my feet, and I think, I don't care.
You know what? You know what's a pet peeve of mine? People that frown on people that pee in the shower. It's such a normal thing.
Yeah, it is.
Why, if you wake up in the morning, your first thing is to take a shower. Why would you pee in the toilet then go in the shower? Just go in the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
Crank that shower on, pee down the drain, pee on your feet. It's good for your athlete's foot.
As I've said before on this podcast in an earlier episode, I think it was actually in the episode about the stuff, Rip Larry Cohen. I pee in the shower at the gym while showering next to other men. And there's no curtains in this one shower. One shower has curtains, one doesn't. But
Oh my God.
there's no curtains. It's just an open shower, like a locker room situation. And I spend so much brain power, like trying to position my body so that the urine is like caught in like a river of water, so it's like invisible. If someone looked over, they would never think that guy's pissing.
How are you not banned? I wonder how you're not banned from video games, online games. How are you not banned from your gym?
It takes a lot to get banned from my gym. There are currently 2 homeless people who, I don't know if they live there, but I'm not against that. But definitely peeing in the shower. That's fine.
You need to turn that gym into Death Spa. That movie.
Yeah, yes, I do.
That's what you did.
Yes, I do. Death Spa, then I go to the shopping mall after.
It's research that I can do all on my own. And this is the best part. I never get tired of it.
Any characters though from this introductory scene that you relate to, that you like, that you just like their vibe?
Well, I always kind of enjoy in an 80s movie how they felt the need to have like the Republican Alex P. Keaton character.
Yeah.
And that guy was a little more defined, I thought. And I also liked Nikki just because I liked her attitude and found her to be a pretty girl. But I'm not sure who else who broke out for you.
I like the couple, Nikki and Chaz, because Chaz had that very cool 80s look to me.
Yeah, he did. He did have a cool look.
He was like he was a cooler Ferris Bueller, and he was wearing the Ray-Ban Clubmasters that I always wear, so that got him some extra bonus points.
He was like Ferris Bueller meets Booth from Teen Wolf.
Booth? You're bringing Booth into this?
Wait, is that the friend character or is that the girl?
No, that's Styles. Rupert Stylinski. No, Booth is the girl with the bangs.
I meant to say Styles.
What can I say? You're beautiful.
I think it's important to just mention that the people that are going to the island, the friends, they're college friends, but a few of them are just people from class, like the Republican guy, and then the one that helped sew the clothes for the her drama club, right? Nan, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was curious about that relationship because I think I missed a bit of that introduction, and then it was weird that she wasn't getting along with everybody, and I was like, why is she there then?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a few random people came along.
Yeah, and the guy Harvey or Hal, the rich Republican kid, he was in her econ class, in Muffy's econ class. So,
oh yes,
he seemed like the pity invite that she just needed somebody else to fuck with.
You're friends with Muffy St. John?
Sure am. We sit together in Econ 345. I let her copy my marginal utility curves.
And then on the ferry that we're introduced to, a character that no one knows is Skip St. John, which is Muffy's cousin, but really twin brother. But you know what I don't get about that is these people are friends with Muffy in college. Wouldn't they know that she has a brother? Like, isn't that something usually you find out about a friend?
Yeah, I guess so. But maybe they didn't know who he was, especially in the pre-social media era.
Yeah, but they didn't even know that she had a twin at all. Like the Buffy character they didn't know of.
One quick thing about the two guests, because both Nan and the Republican guy are kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Did she bring them to fuck with them? Like, instead of bringing someone that she liked, like, did she bring them as kind of revenge?
It seemed like she did her research on her friends and these characters, and it did seem like she wanted to annoy Nan because she played the abortion, the baby tape, and she knew that she had an abortion, right?
Mm.
They didn't really dive too deep into that one, but that was the implication, right?
Yeah, it was, but yeah, it didn't really pursue it very, very much.
Nan kind of addressed it, but and confronted Buffy or Muffy about it, but that was it.
Well, much like the propeller incident, so when they take a boat over to the island where all of this is going to take place, they fake a propeller accident. I mean, you don't know that it's or not a propeller. I think he just rams it with the boat, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a propeller because his face is kind of chewed up, but it could have just been rammed.
Yeah, because it's like the front left of the boat that hits him. That's a weird place for a propeller. But
I thought it was the back. Oh no, it would be the front.
But
you're right.
Yeah, but it's kind of it's funny in a spoof way because it's like so many of these slashers were based on like some sin in the past that now is being punished, and who is the one doing the punishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of sets up like a I know what you did last summer thing very quickly.
By the way, on that ferry ride, what game were what's his name? Arch Cummings and Skip were playing with the switchblade.
Choose your weapons, big guy. Hey, what's this? You up for a game of stretch?
Oh yeah, this is a very hard to understand game. I think they called it Stretch, and it involved putting a switchblade into the ground, and then you had to reach for it maybe without bending your knees or something. But they only ever show the aftermath of someone falling down trying to play this game, so you never know exactly what the rules of this game are.
Skip, your fly's open. Eat it.
When he took the switchblade out, I had like a visceral memory of my cousin John R., Brendan's brother, used to always sleep over my house growing up when we were pretty little kids. And one time we were like playing with Transformers in my basement, and he was like, "Hey, look at this." And he pulled out a switchblade. And I was so scandalized. I was like, "You have a knife?" And I still remember he goes, "I live in Brooklyn." And I was like, "Oh, wow." And then he like put it towards me and I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And then he hit the button and it was a comb. And I've never felt such relief.
My brother had that. I thought it was the coolest thing. I think it was like a Danny Zuko kind of thing.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Don't remember who is Danny Zuko.
From Grease.
Okay.
John Travolta.
Never seen it.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
You never seen Grease? Yep. You need some Grease lightning in your life. That's what you're missing.
The thing is, see, the running theme is like I missed every movie that involved any kind of sexuality. The only romantic thing I saw in my youth was like Say Anything. So that's why I'm like, you just go up to a girl, tell her you love her.
We got to do like a series of like educating Eddie D and just like watching all the movies you should have watched as like a 13-year-old.
That's gonna be on the Patreon. It's gonna be a dating show where I have a hidden earpiece and you like Cyrano de Bergerac me as I'm on dates, but you're gonna be like, "Oh, bring up the film Just One of the Guys." I'm like, "Oh, do you know the film Just One of the Guys?"
Don't get me wrong. It's not like I've never had sex before. I've had lots of sex. It's just that now I'd like to try it with a partner.
This dinner scene, you didn't read the IMDb trivia, but the first few times they tried it, the actors, they just didn't have the energy. Sometimes like when we start this podcast, they just didn't have the energy. But anyway, the director, who we haven't even mentioned at this point.
He only has one other notable film, which is When a Stranger Calls. What's his name? Fred something? Fred Walton? Fred Walton.
Yeah, Fred Walton.
Not one of the Waltons, though.
At first, I thought he was. I mistook him for Fred Ward. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great trivia." He was in The Player, but yeah, When a Stranger Calls and the short film that it was based on, and like one other notable thing that you don't come here for the research.
What did you think of that? I don't know. I think it was a parody of Cosmopolitan, but the next morning where Nikki's reading the sex questions from the magazine. Do you remember the scene?
Word for word.
Do you have an answer? What would be your answer for your first experience?
My first experience was A, painful and degrading. B, not so hot, but I really cared about him. C, I was ready to try again. Or D, wildly exciting. I had an orgasm.
My answer would have to be number 2.
Not so hot, but I cared about him.
I remember the first time I had sex. Probably everyone does this. I just put it in and then just sat there. And then the person was like, "Well, you have to move around." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I remember first time having a condom on and thinking it was in, but it actually wasn't in. And I was just like, this feels kind of weird. It doesn't feel right.
I remember one time I thought I was in. It turned out I was actually inside a complete in box edition of Ring King for NES.
Nobody's going to get. Why did you go Ring King on that joke? It was a great joke.
I was in Simon's Quest NES. I was in Mega Man 6 NES, and the girl said, "That's a pretty rare one, isn't it?" And I said, "I don't know. I have to look that up. We don't really do research on this show."
I want to make you uncomfortable with the next question they asked. Nobody answered it in the movie.
Anyway, the one thing I haven't tried yet, but am intensely curious about is A, oral sex, B, anal entry, C, S&M, D, group sex, E, lesbian sex, or F, all of the above.
I would have to say number 2, anal entry. I've only done just a tiny bit of anal and not really enough to say that I've even done it.
So you don't have a journal entry in that one?
I mean, if I was dating someone and they were like, "Oh, I'm really into anal, so like let's start doing it, taking this," I'd be like, "Okay," secretly Googling like what type of lube to get, and I'll be like, try to act like I've been here before.
Apparently, there's a lot of needed preparation. You can't just jump into it. You have to warm up to it.
That's what my parents used to say.
That's a good Wait, when you said anal entry, did you mean for yourself? Like, because apparently that's supposed to be very pleasurable.
Oh, I've had fingers up my butt all over the world. All over the world.
There's not a continent out there that you haven't had a finger in your butt.
It's so true. Except for Antarctica.
7 added on there. He's going this year.
What is it? The country like right across from there you take the boat, like Argentina. I'm gonna go down there, meet a girl, say, "How's that finger?" And we're gonna take that ferry over and woohoo.
I'm not seeing it. Not seeing results. All I see is a bunch of organic waste.
The first night, they all go to their rooms and there's like a series of mishaps. It's very carefully planned because I feel like some of it's really hard to do. Like the couple that has every time they turn one light off, another one goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Does Muffy know electrical wiring in her spare time that she could do that?
She had to explain it to a very patient electrician.
He's like, what? Like I can just imagine like an older electrician, like, what do you want me to do?
He's like, "Oh, it's all right." He's like, "I'm the gaffer who helped make Ed's hair look full in the Sundance photo." So
no problem. If I could do that job. I do like the ongoing prank joke of the faulty legs on the chair that Thomas Wilson keeps falling off of.
I want to convert every chair in my apartment to being a faulty leg chair, and I'll just fall down and roll around all day long.
You know that one of the other pranks that Muffy plays is the when they do the toast, and she has the dribble glasses for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a false memory? Did you do that to us one time?
I'm sure.
Or some of us?
I'm sure.
I think you only had one, but we did it to several different people.
I mean,
it was our own April Fool's Day where it happened to each one of us.
That reminds me. I had a beer can that was so like, the things that shock you. It was like it felt dangerous how hard it shocked you, and you put it on a table, and then if someone picked it up, it would like really hurt. And man, got a lot of mileage out of that. I also had a radio controlled rat that I would have dart out between the washing machine and the kitchen cabinets or garbage in my old apartment during parties. We had tons of big parties. This is like in my 20s, and have that rat come out. People would jump so high.
I have to ask, going back to that beer can, was it actually a name brand beer, or was it like? Do you remember the pranks that
That's
were
the problem.
Clearly like? It was a made up.
The thing
brand.
is, like at a party, it's pretty easy because you'd be like, "Oh, pass me my beer," and like point at it, and someone just doesn't really look at it. But it was so fake. Like it was like a weird kind of silver color that has never been in a beer can.
Do you remember like the soda can safes that you could store your valuables in, and people would just think it was a can of soda, but it was always like a soda brand that didn't exist. It would be like 6-Up. It was like anybody that saw that would know exactly what it was.
Exactly.
Or like the other novelty things like the gum that would snap on your finger. Like you go to take a piece out and you get your finger snapped, but it was like not a real brand.
I still remember the first time someone got me with that. It actually hurt. I was like, I need this.
The worst was the canned peanuts, and you obviously knew it was going to be the snake in it. But I still love as a kid, I loved pranks like that.
Me too. I've been thinking, because I'm going to be on April Fool's Day today, I'll be in Colorado. And I was thinking I would give my nieces one of those the snake things.
You know, a prank I hated was the sulfur in the little capsules that you would break.
Oh yeah.
Or the rotten egg smell, and you would throw that. Like people would throw that in like a movie theater back in the day, or like in a classroom.
I have a friend to this day that is like a connoisseur of that, and she does it at like, like if she thinks a club is like horrible or something, and it's like such a weird random thing that she does, and I'm like, you're like a character in an indie film. But she's also like really into it. She's like, I got this like liquid shit stuff. Like it's like you could only get it from like China online. It's like banned.
Oh, I get it. That's a joke.
Harv, Hal, Springsteen, still the boss.
You know how with each character though that Muffy does a bit of research and finds something personal about them?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think did the research? Do you think how did she find that about the abortion for Nan? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Do you think Nan forgave her? Or do you think, like, when did Nan actually plot that revenge scare, that revenge prank with the Jack in the Box? Was that, like, after the abortion thing? Or did she go to the island with that in mind?
I don't know what to say. Well, that brings to mind two things. I don't know if we want to jump forward or not. So the movie ends with everyone's been killed off one by one. Like, the final girl is getting chased into the, like, away from the killer. She goes into the room, and all of the people who've been killed are still alive, acting casual. Kind of a weird. I actually love this moment. I thought it was really cool. Kind of weirdly edited because it goes back and it's like, why are they not acknowledging her? But then after that is a reveal. The whole thing's revealed to be a joke. The ending is like another same kind of twist where Muffy is sitting there with like a Jack in the Box. And this was filmed way after the other ending. This was like 4 months later. And Nan comes up behind her and like slits her throat, but then it turns out to be another April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
I when I first saw that, I fucking loved it. And I still love it. The only thing that's kind of a cheat is that Muffy totally goes along with getting her throat slit. Like she is like reacting to it. It's like if someone was using a fake knife, would you really be reacting to it? But the other interesting thing is that I think that the film originally had way more to it, like a whole other third act, where after it was revealed to be April Fool's, the whole thing, someone got pissed and did like a revenge real killing. And then that was cut out of the film.
I wonder which character it would be because none of them seemed pissed. The only one that seemed upset was Nan, but she got her revenge.
Yeah, I think they swapped it out. Like I think they were originally going to have that ending. Then when they realized they weren't, they shot the ending with Nan.
The one thing I want to say about with you mentioning that Muffy reacted to her throat being slashed, but there was the fake blood. So maybe if you felt something go across your throat and you felt a liquid, maybe you would think something happened and you just weren't feeling the pain yet, or
yeah. Well, in the second to last scene, they kind of explain all the inconsistencies away while they're all sitting around.
Yeah.
So what we need is to add an additional scene where after that fake throat slit, you appear on screen and you're like, listen, a lot of people don't even know that they've been stabbed. They say it feels like a punch. Yes, this is not a punch, not a stabbing, but it's similar.
Ha 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 ha! That's really funny, you guys! Really funny. Fuck you!
what do you think of the death scenes in this movie?
Well, the death scenes are limited by the concept because you can't show someone getting like completely murdered because you know that in the end when it's all fake, you have to justify that. As it is, it's just on the border.
We were cheated out of Nan's death. I wonder if that was cut for some reason, but we never see that. They just say, oh, Nan's missing too.
Oh, yeah.
But the one thing I'm curious about, Skip, the one that's Muffy's twin brother, he goes to the boathouse and we see that it appears that he gets attacked. I assume that he's in on it the entire time, right?
Yeah.
So why would there be a scene where he's getting attacked when it's inconsequential?
That's that's like when they show the monster in the Jack in the Box. That's like the film tricking us. That's like the film is also an actor participant in the plot. The camera's like, oh, I better show you, better trick you here.
But the other character that gets attacked, Arch, who goes off into the woods and he gets snared. And there's a random snake, a very venomous snake on this island.
Oh, I forgot about that. This is such a weird scene. There's another kind of weirdly edited scene because it goes back to the snake a few more times than you would think it would.
I do like that they explained the snake as a hiccup in the.
Oh yeah, but he ends up in a snare and swinging back and forth, his head coming towards this snake, and I thought that was actually a pretty interesting scenario. When I was a kid, that was the kind of thing I thought that's the kind of thing I thought would happen to me all the time. Just like I thought quicksand was all over. Every American city had like at least a few spots of quicksand.
I know the quicksand, killer bees, and what else? And
piranhas,
and acid rain. Those were the things we grew up fearing.
And acid rain, yeah.
Arch is sweet, but he only has two expressions: color up and color down.
Was there any death scenes you liked? Did you like the one where Chaz is on the bed and he's covering his crotch, and Nikki walks in and she's like saying, "We're not having sex," and he's just laying there, and then she finally like swats his hands away, and his crotch is all bloody.
Well, I liked the scene when they were having sex and their position was so crazy. Like his leg was like over her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I was sore just looking at
it. Do you think you could pull that off, or not even close?
No, I would need another actor underneath the bed with his leg sticking out of a hole in the bed.
That was like the scene from Society where she's on the bed contorted and she has her friend. You need to just call me up. I'm there for you. I'll be the leg.
All right. That's great to hear.
Sabahiro, you turned out to be.
Look, I took off my jacket and shoes. What the fuck do you want from me? There were 3 guys in the water. At least I'm not all wet.
I'm only kidding.
Hey, Nikki, can we borrow your towel?
As the tension builds and everyone starts disappearing, and Rob and Kit, the couple, who are, I guess they're the main characters, but they're the least interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by far.
Rob is just like the woe is me. Like, I'm not going to medical school. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And she's like, you got to try. It's like that kind of relationship. And remember they had the whole scene where they're like, how could you love somebody that's a failure? He's like 21 years old and he's already a failure.
Yeah, I know. That's so ridiculous.
But they're the last 2 left, and they're running for their lives. They try to make the escape on the boat that pulls up. I feel like, even though I like the movie and I feel like it works 90% of the time, like they just happen to go to the boat. They realize it doesn't start, but they search the boat and find that letter, which kind of explains things. But I feel like if your adrenaline's going and you're trying to escape, are you really searching for clues at that point?
I am, but that's me. Well, I'm just genetically unable to feel fear. It's actually kind of a curse. That's why I live in this neighborhood.
I think you once told me that when you turned the other way because you saw 3 teenagers coming.
Oh yeah, that's true. And even today on my walk to the weed store, I was like crossing streets. I was like jaywalk. I was like, every time I would see someone, it reminded me of like when I used to go to Manhattan in like 1983 or 84 with my father. There's like a really little kid, and I like hold his hand, and I was like always so freaked out, and my father was like, Edward, if you see a weird person, just squeeze my hand. That's the signal. And I was like going through the city, just like, and then like a couple years later, when the Guardian Angels like rose to prominence, I was like, okay, the Guardian Angels are going to solve everything.
And did they? Take us back. What happened? Yeah.
Indirectly.
Leading up to the finale, they realize they have to break back into the house for safety. Was it safety reasons, or what's the reason why they have to re-enter the house?
Yeah, because they're going to like barricade themselves.
But they realize that the doors are closed, so either somebody's in there still. I feel like they made a poor decision, especially since the only way they could get back in is through the basement, which was, I guess, carefully planned for them because they had to go in the basement to find all the clues that kind of tidied up the story.
Yeah, well, in the very first scene, we see her prop open the window as a clue that will happen later.
That is true. But her clothes are in the incinerator. Why would they look in there? And they're just like, hey, look, it's Muffy's clothes.
You always check the incinerator.
I feel like I would be useless in that situation. I would just be like the guy panicking.
I would be crafting a steampunk-esque weapon. Look, here's a steam-powered rifle.
Get you in Wild Wild West with Will Smith and Kevin Kline.
I recently was talking to a producer who was talking about like the streaming kind of scene. And she said, it's been a few years, but it's still the Wild Wild West out there. And I was like, you said the Wild West. Yes. Wild Wild West is the film.
That's it. No more Mr. Knife Guy.
Kid and Rob find out that Muffy has a twin sister who's psychotic and that's been in an asylum for like 3 years, Buffy. And she's, I guess, loose on the island or loose in the house. And I think
Not unlike the film Blood Rage.
Right. Another duo performance by the lead. And they make their way upstairs, and this is what you kind of addressed already, in that they find out that it was all a prank. And it was all good fun, and everybody had a nice laugh about it, and they celebrated. Cracked open that champagne.
Everyone got their own bottle. I love that.
Oh, what's this? Dom Perignon sparkling rosé?
Smells like Ripple.
The second to last scene, I think it's kind of funny how much explanation they do about each aspect of her plot. You're like, wow, they're really going to talk all of this out?
I did like
it
though.
too.
Okay.
And it does have the feeling of kind of like an Agatha Christie style mystery where like the detective in the end would be like, and then like you did this, like, you know what I mean?
Isn't that kind of the plot of Then There Was None, the Agatha Christie story?
Yeah, exactly. I think the drawing room mystery genre where like it always ends with like the detective explaining it all to like the room of suspects.
Yeah.
It kind of has elements of that. Oh, but also I like in the final Jack in the Box scene how like when she comes into the room, she's like playing it like she's like really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are usually not that fucked up in movies, but she was like really fucked up.
I loved it. I love that ending.
Yeah, that ending's great.
Much like Society, like the ending is such a huge payoff.
If you've never seen it before and we've ruined it, but the ending is so great.
Well, the name of the movie is April Fool's Day, so you have to figure there's some kind of practical joke.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the closing song. Did you listen to the closing credits song?
It started and it was clearly crazy, and I shouldn't have stopped it so soon, but I did.
I did too, but I made it through a few lines, which I'll play. But pretty much, I think it's had to be written for the movie.
Too bad you're crazy. Too bad you're loony as hell. So long, it could have been swell together. Too bad you're wacko. Wacko. How sad your marbles are gone. All gone. We could be dancing till dawn, but you're too weird for words.
Do you think this movie works well? And would you recommend it?
I think it works pretty well. I think when you said 90% of the time, that's pretty accurate. I mean, it's kind of a cliche that in every movie, like filmmaking people say this, like in every movie you get one big buy in.
Mm-hmm.
Like people won't accept two things, but they'll go with like one thing.
Yeah.
And the thing you have to go with in this movie is that the plot, her scheme works, you know, and of course it would never work in real life. But it is fun, and it's not annoying in the way that some of these other movies we've seen have been annoying with shitty plots.
Yeah.
It's pretty well done, and I would recommend it. I liked it less than you, but I do enjoy it. And as far as like this era of slasher goes, it's definitely not top tier, but definitely B tier, and that's good. That's good. The tiers go down to Z.
I would certainly recommend April Fool's Day. I think it's fun. It'd probably be fun to watch with a group.
Yeah.
I think if you have the means, you should rent your own private island, invite some friends, and watch the movie, and then try to reenact it.
Yeah, I think it's safer to watch the movie first, so that people know not to like, you know, accidentally kill you if you seem like you're trying to kill them. They know it's all in good fun.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks.
We're back in 2 weeks with a movie that I'll be picking, and it might not be horror, so buckle up. The last thing I'm going to say is rate and review the podcast. If we get to 125 ratings, we are going to hold a murder mystery weekend for all of our listeners.
How'd I do? I never done no acting before. I was really shaken.
handicapped children. My parents are my best friends. Oh, and I start convent school next semester. And I fuck on the first day. April Fool.
Whoa, Nikki, baby, you're outrageous. Hey, now get out of here, you knucklehead.